Hello and welcome to episode 436 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. I'm Ben Olson and with me is Nathan Fox. We're the co-founders of LSATdemon.com and the LSAT Demon Daily podcast. If you want to be LSAT famous, you can share news and ask questions on our website. That's thinkinglsat.com. Coming up on Wednesday, January 24th at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have a free class that's for everyone. You just need a Demon free account, which you can get at lsatdemon.com. This is going to be double black diamond with you, Nathan. That is a challenging class, right?
Well, it's an expert level logical reasoning class. I do a whole bunch of level 5, some level 4 difficulty LR questions. For me, it's probably the most fun class I teach because I just get to run through a bunch of LR questions and kind of yell at them, I mean, that's how we do LR. It's really fun once you learn how to do it the right way. You just kind of get in there and critically engage with what you're reading, and there's usually stuff in there that you can object to. The logic doesn't really make sense, and so you can take these really hard questions and turn them into really easy questions, just with the kind of aggressive mindset that we like to teach. So yeah, double black diamond, Wednesday, January 24th, 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's just a 1-hour class. And you go to lsat.link/free to sign up for that.
Great. So it sounds like we have an actual audio question.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. Okay. So let's take a listen.
Okay.
Hey, Ben and Nathan. My name is Ellen, and I'm a high school English teacher in Southside Chicago. I took the official LSAT once about 5 years ago, but didn't really prep for it, scored a 160, and wasn't really committed to the idea of going to law school back then. Now that I'm a little older, have some work experience under my belt, I am sure that I want to go to law school and become a practicing attorney. So my question is, where do I jump back into my LSAT study? Should I take another diagnostic or start with time sections or drilling or something else? I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Fantastic. Why don't you go ahead, Ben?
Yeah. So this is a question we get all the time. How do I get back into LSAT studying? And I'm concerned, Ellen, that you and so many other people who have this question are overthinking this whole process. All you ever have to do to get back into LSAT studying is to do one question. That might be one question in drilling. That might be one question at the beginning of a time section that you then continue to finish. Or it might be the first question in a test. It doesn't matter. You just have to do a question. The easiest is probably just drilling and then start reviewing it. And now you're back into LSAT studying. And the test will tell you what you need to work on.
Yeah, I would just say all students, all levels, day 1 or day 1001 of your LSAT prep, just do one question. So drilling is the core of the demon. You definitely need to be doing drilling every day, and it's just one question at a time. So I love drilling in logical reasoning specifically because the questions are shorter. But yeah, all you got to do, Ellen, is just hit drill and do one question and hopefully get it right. If you struggle with it at all you got to do is watch our videos, read our written explanations. If those aren't fully sufficient to make you feel like, oh, okay, I get it now. I wouldn't make that mistake again. I totally understand. I feel good about the question, right? The right answer is right. The wrong answers are wrong. I totally understand now. If you don't feel like that from our videos and from our written explanations, then you can just hit the ask button and our team of tutors will be right with you with the help that you need. So really, it's just one question. And as Ben said, if you want to do that in the context of a timed section, great. If you want to do that in the context of a full practice test, fine. But please don't let, this idea that, well, I have to do a full diagnostic. Let me schedule that for 3 weeks from Tuesday. Don't do that. Instead, just get right on the horse right now with one question.
Yeah, if you're in your car listening to this, obviously you can't do a question now, but when you get home and you've got 15 minutes, just pull out your phone, open the LSAT Demon app, and hit drill. You can do one question right there. It doesn't need to be this big thing.
Yeah, you can pull into a rest area and you could do one question right now.
You could. You absolutely could. Ellen, great job. I didn't hear a lot of ums and stuff like that in there. Just a well stated verbal question. That's not always easy to do. This next one is from Dale. The subject is retake and reapply question mark.
Hey, Ben and Nathan, I'm struggling to decide what I should do. I have a 4.0 undergraduate GPA and have taken the LSAT 4 times officially with a high score of a 166. However, when I took the LSAT the last 3 of those 4 times, I had a practice test score average of around 169 to 171. I submitted applications with the 166 this cycle and have gotten a few offers from top 40 schools with little scholarship from each. So small discounts. My gut tells me that I should give the LSAT one last shot and reapply next cycle, but my parents tell me that I shouldn't waste another year for a higher LSAT score that isn't guaranteed, especially considering my past scoring failures relative to my practice test scores. Their input is relevant to me because they're offering to financially support me during law school and are strongly against my taking another gap year. What should I do? For context, I'm 22 years old, living at home with my parents. Thank you, Dale.
It sounds like your parents are worried that you're going to spend this time and not get a higher LSAT score. I don't see a problem with continuing with your current plan, even though I don't love it, and then just taking the LSAT again. Because if you do get that higher score, then you can be like, hey, well, there's no longer a question of whether I will or won't. Here it is. Let's reapply.
Yeah, I think the parents are probably thinking that there is some downside to retaking, including, I guess, Dale won't ever go to law school. Dale will just, smoke weed and work at the Starbucks and not fulfill his amazing legal future that they envision for him. But that doesn't seem likely. It seems like Dale wants to go to law school. And I think Dale, if Dale's saying, hey, I think for financial reasons, it might make sense to take another year, retake the LSAT, and get a better offer. The magnitude of this decision is just so huge that I think it trumps pretty much all other considerations. Your folks are offering to financially support you during law school, and they are, quote, strongly against you taking another gap year. Does that mean that they're going to cut you off if you do take another gap year? Or does that mean they're just going to be a little bit angry about it? Because are they paying the tuition for law school or not? That's really important. I mean, if they're financially supporting you during law school to the tune of paying all of your law school tuition, then that's one thing. Then maybe, what is that stupid saying? Something about if you pay the piper, you call the tune.
I haven't heard that before, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
if you pay the money, you call the shots, right? So.
Right. If they're really going to pay for everything, if that's what financial support means. But if all financial support means is, room and board, then the room and board, the value of the room and board pales in comparison to the potentially $50,000 a year times 3 of tuition discount that these schools do offer every single year to hundreds of thousands of laws. Every school pretty much has hundreds of scholarship recipients.
Yeah.
And so, you're a 4.0 and you can score better. You have scored in the 170s. And a few LSAT points at this, at that level, right? 4.0, 166. A 4.0, 170 is a vastly better applicant. It opens the doors to top 14 schools, and then it makes the schools that are ranked 25, 30, 35, they look at you with a 170 and a 4.0, and they're like, hey, there's no way we're going to get this guy if we don't give them the big scholarship. So what I would tell your folks is, I am going to go to law school. It'll always be there. I'm 22 years old now. So I could start law school this year when I'm 22 or 23, or I could start law school next year when I'm 23 or 24. That means I'm going to start practicing law when I'm 26 or 27. And instead, I'll start practicing law when I'm 27 or 28. What difference does it make when you start looking at the graduation date instead of the date that you start school? Show them your graduation date and say, hey, mom and dad, is it really going to make a difference if I graduate in 2028 versus 2029 or 2027 versus 2028? What difference does it make? By the time we are doing another presidential election 4 years from now, I'm going to be graduating and practicing law one way or the other. So who gives a shit? But compared to the possible, and let's say it's I don't know. What do you think the odds are, Ben, of somebody like this? What do you think the odds are that Dale will get it done on attempt number 5?
I think they're pretty good. I mean,
it's certainly not, it's maybe, I was going to say 50-50.
Sure.
Maybe it's not even that high. Maybe it's only 1/3 of the time that Dale gets it done.
But you're paying $200 plus a Saturday to have the chance at winning $100,000. Who wouldn't do that?
Right. Or opening the door to Harvard, Stanford, Yale, the truly elite schools, because these top 40 schools that you're talking about are just they're not blowing anybody out of the water as far as how great of a law school that is. These are all just okay law schools. And you could open the door with your grades. You could open the door to the truly great law schools, which would then mean that these okay law schools in the top 40 are pretty much forced to give you huge tuition discounts in order to get you to go.
Yeah.
So, right, what Ben said, $215 plus a Saturday, plus wait a little bit longer. Don't go to law school this cycle, go to law school next cycle instead. The financial investment is tiny. And even if it's only a 1/3 chance that you're going to score higher than your 166, that's a 1/3 chance of huge discounts on the tuition that you're going to pay.
Well, and it's almost irrelevant to talk about the chances of success because there's no downside to failure.
$215, a half a Saturday to take the test, and wait another year, be a little bit more mature, be able to get more out of law school than you are currently able to get out of it, because you'll have one more year worth of life experience, work experience. You'll have a better idea what you want to do with your JD. Right. It's just nothing but when you start talking about the ancillary benefits, there's so many to waiting another cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I don't see the downside to just taking the test without even making a decision about waiting. If that's the big holdup, right? You could take it again and just, hey, if you do get that higher score, now there's a big reason to wait.
Totally. Yeah. I would also be curious what Dale's best section is, because if Dale's worst section is games, there's an opportunity here potentially to wait and take the test in August
without
in a games free test environment. If that's where you have lost your points, Dale, there won't be any games starting in August. On the other hand, if games is your best section, then you do want to make sure that you take it, I guess, in April or in June of this year, because you'll still have a chance to take it with the games.
Yeah.
There are no guarantees. I mean, but there is one huge guarantee, which is law school is always going to be there. It's going nowhere.
And the other guarantee is that you'll never know what you could have done if you never do it.
I'll give you one more guarantee, which is if you score lower, law schools aren't ever going to care. They're still going to only look at your high score of 166. You're still a great candidate. You're going to get the same offers. Your offers aren't going to get worse. Your offers are going to be the same or potentially far better if you can tack on, a couple, 3 more LSAT points. I think things are going to change dramatically. Maybe your parents haven't seen the scholarship estimator yet, Dale. Take them to lsatdemon.com/scholarships and just play around with your 4.0 and your 166 and show them, hey, here are the offers that I'm, estimated to get. And you could see, do those match the offers that you actually got, Dale? Then put in 170 with your 4.0 and just watch the page turn green with all of these full tuition scholarships that you're going to be offered, or you would be expected to be offered if you had a 170 instead of a 166. The 166 is fine, but it's making your 4.0 a little bit sad. And a 170 would make your 4.0 quite a bit happier. And I don't know. You could end up saving yourself $100,000 pretty easily. If the folks are going to pay for that, they should understand. If the folks aren't going to pay for that, then maybe you need to make the decision yourself for your own best interest instead of, succumbing to the parental pressure.
Yeah. Good luck, Dale. Let us know what you decide to do and what ends up happening. This next email is from Alexis. I'll read it. Do you recommend people to study any formal logic or informal logic books to get better at understanding logic?
Nope.
I listened to your podcast. Okay, thanks for writing in. I listened to your podcast and am a premium Demon subscriber, but my score is 150 to 154. I know you say predicting the answer is key, but honestly, when I'm taking the test, I'm like, yeah, that has to be it. And then I'm way off and I get 10 wrong. So how do you get good at prediction?
Let me stop you right there. Alexis, your problem is you're doing too many questions. You're not actually doing the questions. You're reading it, you're skimming it, and you're going, yeah, that's got to be it right there. Yeah, And because you're like, maybe it has one word that you liked, or it just kind of sounds like it fits with, or whatever. But if you're missing 10, you have basically no clue what you're doing. So you have to slow way down. You have to do fewer questions. You have to get more of them right. I don't believe that your problem is you're not good enough at prediction or whatever. I think you're just racing through the test. And if you slow way down, you'll start to understand it better. And when you start to understand it better, then you'll make better predictions. But it has nothing to do with formal logic or informal logic books, whatever that even is. You don't need to do any of that. You need to do one LSAT question at a time and then thoroughly review our written explanations, especially, I think, to understand exactly why those wrong answers are wrong. They're not close. They're way, way off. And the right answers are good. The right answers are the only ones that actually answer the question. So you just need to take each individual question more seriously. It's not some lack of form. Did you ever have a class in formal logic?
No. A lot of times when I hear about formal logic in some article or, wherever, it's like, I'm not familiar with that, but I can tell you whether this is logical. I can tell you whether this makes sense.
It's just common sense. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine like a smart ass high schooler. I just think about myself in high school. I would have been able to answer many of these questions in high school just because I thought I was smarter than everybody else. So I would read it and I would go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up. You don't get to make that conclusion based on this evidence. Even if I give you full credit for all of your evidence, I don't have to give you that conclusion. And let me tell you why. And it's just common sense. It isn't anything that had to be formally studied ever. Ben, when we get those questions about like, is this inductive reasoning or deductive reasoning?
Yeah.
And we're both like,
huh?
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we definitely agree there. And what you said earlier to Alexis, hey, you need to slow down, is exactly her problem. Because look at this next paragraph. She says, is it reading informal logic books or just taking numerous practice tests over and over? I'm having such a hard time with the predictions. So Alexis falls into this camp of students who think progress comes from quantity, not quality. And of course, you can't just do quality on one question and then think that that's it. Like there is some quantity in here, but it's all contingent on you doing quality work for every question that you attempt. And so, yeah. Well, slow it
It's not
down.
like an endurance sport, right?
Yeah,
You,
yeah,
you can get way better at running by just like go run your ass,
yeah,
like
yeah.
if you just run, then it's, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm missing something big about running, but I'm pretty sure that if you just put in a lot of miles, you're going to get quite a bit better at running.
Hmm.
And on the LSAT, maybe if you do tests after test after test, like you are going to get better. But with the LSAT, you can study each mistake you make.
You can get better astronomically faster than someone who just
Yeah.
lazily like takes a test and then takes another test and hopes that somehow these lessons sink in, but they actually really won't if you don't unpack why D was ultimately wrong
Yeah.
or
And
whatever
it's
answer
not
you
about
chose.
doing tests over and over. It's not about doing questions over
Or
and over.
yeah, memorizing. Yeah.
It's about actually understanding them just once, just one time. That's all I need you to do. I need you to, like, let's look at this question that you missed. And then can you just, you've reviewed it, right? You've read our written explanations. You've watched our videos. You've used the ask button if necessary. You feel like you've felt the click. Okay. So can you explain it to me now? Why is the right answer right? How does that answer the question? Why does that make perfect sense? Yeah. Okay. And then can you also tell me that wrong answer that you chose? What is it that makes it wrong? Like it is wrong. Can you tell me why, like legally, defensibly, that this wouldn't hold up? Like there's no way this answers the question. It's clearly wrong.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to me? Because if you can just do that from one question, then you have made so much more progress than this test after test after test, just looking at the data, like looking at the numbers, like I keep getting 10 wrong. Oh, I got 9 wrong on that one. That's good. Oh, I got 11 wrong on that one. That's bad.
Yeah.
Like you're not learning anything from that. Instead, you just need to do one question and really, really unlock it. And that's what we do is we help you unlock those questions. So you can come to class and you can ask Ben or me or any of our teachers questions. You can use our ask button to ask our team of tutors questions. The explanations and the videos should really help you unlock a lot of that stuff. But yeah, less is more, I guess.
Producer Eric has a note here. He says, check out Formal Logic LSAT Demon Daily episode 384. I guess in it, he and Francesca talk about formal logic. So there's a little bit more you can listen to about that. In summary, don't worry about it. Use common sense, as you just said.
That's Eric's TLDR for their episode that they did. That's a message that we have to deliver over and over and over to our students, is that it's really not about that. It's really about common sense. And a smart high schooler or a sharp junior high kid even is going to be able to look at these arguments and go, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. You don't get to make that conclusion based on that evidence. And it really isn't anything to do with fancy formal logic.
Yeah. Okay. This next one is from the Ask button. It's about Test 65 Game 1, Question 4. The
Okay.
question says, is there anything to be said for the strategy in answer choice ordering? In this case, it was the last option, and we really only got there by process of elimination.
Okay.
Had we
Sorry, I'm
started
laughing
from
because I can see this question in advance.
okay. Had we started from E, we would have saved a good 2 minutes. Are there any strategies, recommendations? For instance, are test writers more likely to position the correct answer later in the list if it's a X type of question? Oh my God. Wow, this is okay. Thanks for asking. What do you want to say here?
First, I want to say that your video has 192 upvotes
Okay.
for this game.
Okay.
So that's maybe the highest upvoted explanation I can remember seeing in the Demon. So
Yeah, we keep
do have
resetting stuff. So
we do have an excellent an excellent video explanation for this full entire game available at lsatdemon.com. And this is one of those games that's part of the marketing license, right?
correct.
Yeah, Test 65. So just all you need is a LSAT Demon free account, and you can do tons of questions, including this one, Test 65 Game 1. The question says the order in which the students perform is fully determined if which one of the following is true. So one important thing is to understand exactly what that question is asking. All the question asks is, hey, which one of these 5 things, if it's true, is going to tell you exactly the order in which these 5 students perform their upcoming in the upcoming piano recital? Because that's all we're doing in this game. It's a pretty straightforward game, right? You got 5 things. You're just putting 5 things in order. That's all you're doing in this game.
Yep. Yeah.
And so all this question's asking is, hey, one of these 5, if it were true, is going to lock down all the variables so that you know exactly the order, all 5 people in order.
Yep.
I do not accept the students' claim that had we started from answer choice E, we would have saved a good 2 minutes. That's not true. I think that had you started with E, you might have saved yourself 30 seconds. But I don't see how you're saving 2 minutes.
Yeah. As you get better at games and better at worlds, when you even answer these types of questions, you're looking at answer choice A and you're just saying, okay, what happens when F performs immediately before H? And if you see 2 worlds where that happens, bam, you know that answer is wrong. That's a real quick analysis.
Yeah.
Right?
My solution to the game and Ben's solution to the game, I'm just looking at the first frame on these videos, but Ben made 2 worlds. I made 2 worlds. Ben made 2 worlds based on the FH combo. I made 2 worlds based just on H.
Yep.
We've also got a video from Ben where he just used 1 world and made a web. Looks like there's another video where you did the same thing, just made a web. We've got tons of video coverage for this one, but I think in all cases, you're going to see that when we actually answer this question, there's no way it takes 2 minutes to answer that question.
Yeah.
You're going to look at A, you're going to say, okay, if F performs immediately before H, does that lock everybody down? And I think you can glance at your worlds and go, no, that doesn't do it. Yep. I mean, I'm looking at your 2 worlds. I can tell just from the tiny little screen cap, I can see a world where you've got F and H in the 4th and 5th spots. And if they have a handle on them, right? Because they have to be next to each other in this game.
Yep.
But locking up F and H so that they have to go in exactly that order, I can just glance at one world and go, no, that doesn't do it. Because there's all these other players, G and K and J, and they can go wherever they want in those first 3 spots. So no. How about B? G immediately before F?
So G before F, that happens in the first world. That also could happen in the second. So then we're done, right? It's not
right. If it can happen in both worlds, then it's not you're not going to have the same solution in both worlds. So glance at that and go, nope, it's possible in both worlds. That's not going to do it. H immediately before J, that wouldn't do it in the first world. I can see from here that if H is immediately before J, G and K can still flip-flop in the first 2.
They're going back and forth. Yep, exactly.
D, J immediately before H. Let's see. That's not possible in the first world, so that's a good start.
Yeah.
J immediately before H. Still not going to do it because G and K can still flip-flop. And now I'm already to E. What's E say? K immediately before F. K immediately before F. It would work in your first world and it would lock everybody down. K immediately before F won't work in your second world because K before J has to fit in before you get to the F. So no, if you had good worlds here, you could, at a glance, you could just go, A's not doing it. Neither is B, neither is C, neither is D. Answer's E. You're not saving 2 minutes by trying to outsmart the test by looking at the answer choices out of order.
No, it may have taken us a minute or so to verbally explain that, right? Orally explain that on a podcast. Right. But when you're doing this in your head, you're just looking and you're like, nope, 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 nope. And it's over. So work on your setup. Take a look at that video. I'm curious what happened there. Yeah.
Broader.
Yeah.
Okay. Like a broader question from the ask button says, are there any strategies or recommendations? For instance, are test writers more likely to position the correct answer later in the list if it's a certain type of question? I've been teaching LSAT for 16, 17 years. I've never seen any trend like that.
Yeah.
Have you?
Nope.
another however
Well,
many.
we're not looking
15
for it because it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, but it also just doesn't exist. I mean, I don't think, yeah, I'm going to say, you know what? I will tell you the one time where I have seen something similar to this, and
Hmm.
it only happens on reading comprehension. And it's not even the same thing, but it's kind of analogous, which is on reading comp, the last question in the passage, there are a lot of questions on reading comp where the last question in the passage is asking you something about the first paragraph of the passage.
Sure.
Now, that's not anything to do with doing the answer choices out of order, but it is to do with like, hey, I have noticed that there's this thing that they try to do sometimes where you've read the passage, you've answered 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Now you're on 19.
Yeah.
And it's asking you a question. And it turns out that the correct answer is something that was like way back in the first sentence of the passage.
The funny thing is, though, right, that also happens so many times earlier in the questions. We just don't remember it because
Right. Right.
it happened earlier on. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, long-winded answer to this question. The shorter, much shorter answer is just a no. That we don't have these gimmicky strategies about looking at answer choices out of order.
Yeah.
But you could just get better at your worlds, better at interpreting your worlds, and this type of question doesn't need to be stressful or dramatic, and it certainly shouldn't take you 2 minutes to go through those answer choices.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
This next one is from Anonymous. The subject is new LSAT difficulty with LG removed, with logic games removed.
Huh.
Okay. Hi, Ben and Nathan. With logic games being removed in 2024, do you anticipate that future logical reasoning and reading comprehension sections will become harder than previous official logical reasoning and reading comp sections on the LSAT? I guess what I'm wondering is if my practice test scores without logic games today on LSAT Demon indicate that I could get similar scores once logic games is removed officially and I take the actual LSAT. I would love to hear what you think. Thanks so much.
They claim that, I mean, and this goes back to their email announcement about getting rid of the games, but
Yep.
Law School Admission Council claims that taking games off of the test is not going to change the difficulty or the scores at all. And they set their own they set their own scoring scale. So it's not like objectively like what percentage of the students are getting what percentage of questions right or anything like that. It's like they're scaling the test in advance. They define how difficult the test is, and then they make a 120 to 180 scale that's gonna spit out a bell curve of outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's not going to change. There's still going to be scores at all ranges from 120 all the way up to 180. And why would they have to make it harder? I guess people are saying, well, because I think games are hard. So games going away means that they have to make the LR and the RC harder.
Yeah.
But the thing you're missing is that so many people score perfectly on the games.
Yeah.
I mean, games is actually the section that if you're going to score perfect, that's probably going to happen on the games. So it is the section that really crushes novices.
There's probably more variance, right?
I think there is more variance.
Lower, and there's more people who score perfect.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, if I had to take an LSAT, right? If you put me in a lab and do experiments where you have me do like 10 sections of RC, 10 sections of LR, 10 sections of games, guarantee that the variance is going to be higher on the games.
You get a question wrong, you get shocked electrically.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be fun. I just, yeah. Well, you agree, right, Ben? Like if you were ever going to crash and burn on any section, it would probably be the games. It's also, if you're going to score perfectly on a section, I mean, we're going to score perfectly on LR and RC sometimes too, or kind of a lot too. But games, like we're going to score perfectly like 95% of the time. And then 1 out of 20 sections, we might hit we might stumble.
What the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's like, oh, no problem. That's why we take the LSAT multiple times,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we know that eventually we'll crush the games.
Yeah. I
Um,
agree.
I see no reason why they would have to make the test harder because of games. I do see a reason why they might be making the LSAT harder, though, in the future.
Sure. More people are getting accommodated. And yeah, as long as there's an increase in the number of people scoring in the top scores, which
Yeah.
has been the case, they
Yeah.
need to make it harder to make it
They do.
more selective for the top
Right.
schools.
Because you've got to think that Yale and Harvard and Stanford and Chicago and whatever else, the truly elite law schools, those schools have to be in LSAC's ear all the time now saying, hey, we've had scores 175 and higher have more than doubled over the last couple of years.
So now we can't use LSAT as
That's
effectively as we
Bad
did
for
before.
us.
Yeah.
If I'm Yale, that's bad for us because I don't want so many people applying with 175 and higher. How
Yeah.
can I differentiate between these people?
Yeah.
Make the test harder so that 175 is now a
Means something.
99.9th percentile score again, which it used to be. And now it's basically just a 99th percentile score. And we need to really differentiate between the, top of the range.
Yeah.
And I do think that accommodations is a main culprit for why these top scores have exploded.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't released any new data on this, but I think it is a big and growing problem, just anecdotally from what we hear from our students. And so I would predict that the LSAT will get harder because the accommodations are throwing things so far out of balance that you just get too many scores in the 170s and high 170s.
Yeah.
That's my wild speculation. I mean, that could be totally wrong, but
It's a very
that's what I would
plausible
bet.
explanation. Yeah.
Logic is useful, like you just kind of figure out the incentives and figure out what's going on. I don't know. It just seems like that's probably what's going to have to happen because otherwise you're just going to end up like, what if scores 175 and over double again in the next couple of years?
Yeah, that'd be crazy. That'd be really
The
crazy.
99th percentile is now 177. And you just like, if you're Yale and Harvard and Stanford, you're looking at a stack of applications of all 175s and higher.
Yeah.
And what do? Just the LSAT becomes less valuable to them if too many people are blowing out the top of the scale. So if they're going to keep accommodating people the way they have been, yeah. Next one. This is a question about the above the law rankings.
Yeah.
Ben and Nate, I'm curious what your thoughts are on the above the law rankings compared to US News. My brief look at their methodology makes it seem more realistic because it's outcome based with a heavy emphasis on jobs that, quote, give most law graduates a plausible chance at paying off their debt. Sounds good. I'm looking forward to your thoughts on comparing and contrasting the two. Thanks. We've got a link here to lsatdemon.com/rankings. Yeah, this is our law school rankings over time page.
Yeah.
Which shows the US News rankings over time and the above the law rankings over time. I forgot that we even had this page. This page is really good.
Yeah. It's interesting because first of all, we live in a world where pretty much everyone refers to the US News rankings. So
Yeah.
as much as I value a ranking system that is outcome based, I think it's something you should consider. I don't think you should be giving that much weight to the rankings anyway. It's really about how much you're going to have to pay. This quote right here is really interesting to me. It's heavy emphasis on jobs that, quote, give most law graduates a plausible chance at paying off their debt.
That is so dire the way that's even phrased.
Yeah, a plausible chance. Like, oh, they're admitting right off the bat that there's a chance you might not be able to pay off your debt, which is horrible. I mean,
No,
geez.
I mean, it seems like if you think about the other side of that, right? They're ranking schools based on their ability to, quote, give most law graduates a plausible chance at paying off their debt. That means they think that there are many schools out there that do not give most law graduates a plausible chance. And by the way, a plausible chance doesn't mean that you are going to actually be able to
Yeah,
pay
it's
off
not
your
a
debt. It
good
just means that
chance.
you have a plausible chance.
A
So
chance
this is-
that's above zero, a chance that's above one. Like, what
Yeah.
does that even mean?
yeah.
But so what my reaction though when you first read that was, hey, let's not even get into this situation, which is why we tell
Yeah.
people to get the best possible LSAT score and go to law school for as close to free as you possibly can, because then the game you're playing is radically different, and you're not so concerned about whether or not you can pay off your debt. It's more like, okay, the rankings don't matter that much. Did I get into the best school that I could for free or almost free? If you did, then your chances of success are wildly better on so many different metrics.
Well, yeah, because if you don't take on debt, then you give yourself a quite plausible chance of paying off your debt.
yeah, yeah,
You not even plausible, like it's a certainty because you don't have the debt to begin with. I mean, most people, even if you do get a full tuition scholarship, you're still probably going to have to borrow some money for living expenses along the way because you're not going to be allowed to work during your
Yeah.
1L year if you're going full time. And
yeah,
so, you will probably take on some debt, but if you avoid the crushing $50,000 a year tuition debt, if you just kind of ignore both the above the law rankings and the US News rankings, and if you apply broadly, look at the actual schools that are admitting you without really thinking about their rankings so much, just look at the job outcomes. I mean, do people who go to this school get the kinds of jobs that you want to get? What do you want to do with your JD? Is this school actually going to do that for you? Or is this school just selling you some bullshit about like, oh, well, law school is a transformative experience. You can do whatever you want with the JD. Sky's the limit. So many of our graduates they don't even practice law at all. They do all kinds of amazing things with their JD. Like, yeah, but I'm paying for a JD. Do I want a JD? Like, is this JD going to do something specific for me? Because you're charging an awful big tuition for these, loose, like, I'm looking for a word. It's like this theoretical, hypothetical, you can do anything.
ephemeral.
Ephemeral. Yeah, that might have been it. Yeah. I don't want to hear you can do anything with a JD.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to hear you're charging me $50,000 a year of tuition. And it's
I'm
going to
gonna
take
stop
3 years of
working.
my life.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to quit my job to go pay you $50,000 a year. I've been making $50,000 a year, but now I'm going to pay you $50,000 a year for 3 years. In the end, you're going to give me a piece of paper. And I'm going to be certified to go sit for the bar exam. And then I'm doing all of this so that I can get a better job, a better career for myself.
yeah.
Like, is that actually going to happen? Or are you just going to give me some bullshit about, oh, you can do anything with a JD and who knows where you'll go from here and all this nonsense?
Yeah. Imagine that scenario in any other context, like in an investing context. Someone said to you, like, stop earning money, give me 50 grand plus living expenses for the next 3 years. And then I'll give you the opportunity to work. Like, it's not even there's not even a return on that capital unless you go out and do something with it.
I think that it would be called fraud in many circumstances. I mean, it's hilarious because, like, if you just take the name law school out of it, if you just sort of like made it vague, but you like if you just laid out what the proposition is, and then if you showed the actual outcomes,
Yeah.
right?
So do you want to do this thing? You want to sign
look
up?
Look at this fraud that's being perpetuated on this poor cohort of people, but you took all the specifics out of it. And then you could at the end, like, unmask it, reveal that like, oh, well, this is just
The American legal system. Yeah.
UC Hastings. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this is just basically like pick a law school that does this scam on people.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I don't know. Long story short, what are we saying? Ignore the rankings, basically.
Yeah. Ignore the rankings and try to go for as close to free as you possibly can.
Yes. And if you want to use the ATL rankings to give to try to find some schools that you think might be a better value, then great. But like, you should be using the rankings to like explore, right? You should be using the rankings to find schools that might be good schools for you to apply to. You should not be using these rankings as a deciding factor. I'm going to pick my school based on like pick the actual offer. You have to pick the actual offer based on the price and the outcomes.
Yeah.
So these above the law rankings with this, we're looking for people to, we want to look at schools that give most law graduates a plausible chance at paying off their debt. I mean, I guess I commend them for doing that. But for any individual applicant, it's far better for you to just apply broadly. Look what actual offers you get. And then choose an offer that gives you personally, individually, a plausible chance at paying off your debt.
Yeah.
Because you know how much the debt's going to be, and you know what that JD will do for you from that school.
Yeah.
Right? But
Totally.
So this question tells you a lot about how law school applicants, unfortunately, how law school applicants actually make these decisions, which is they're just like, oh, well, no, I mean, above the law tells me that this is a school that gives me a plausible chance at paying off my debt. Where do I sign? It's like, wait, but that school that school is still could be making you a shitty offer.
Yeah.
And you're going to, even if the school does give most law graduates a plausible chance at paying off their debt, if you're the person who's not getting a scholarship at that school, then you have a far worse chance of paying off your debt than does everyone else in your class. So people really need to be making this decision based on actual offers and their own individual circumstances, not these rankings.
Yeah. If we can just tell you one thing, that's to get much more rational about this big ass decision. It feels a lot like home buying to me. Like people walk into a home and they quote fall in love, and it's like price be damned.
Right. Oh, and the agents love to say that too. The agents are just like, well, one of these is just going to feel like home to you. I mean, and you're planning on staying here, right? So as long as you're planning to stay here, you're going to live here forever. I mean, 30-year mortgage, who really cares how much you pay?
When I first bought a house, I remember making that realization that the two agents were working together to sell the house.
Yep.
I had this initial idea like, oh, this agent is my agent. So they have my interests at heart. And it's like, no, they don't, because they both win when the deal closes. So whatever they can say to me, whatever they can say to the seller to get them happy about the price and get them to shake hands, that's a win for them. And the faster it happens, it's a win for them.
Oh, yeah. And best case, they sell you the house and 2 years later, you want to sell it and you you like them. And so you give them the listing.
Yeah.
And then they get to go sell the house again.
Yeah.
Maybe they even get both sides of the deal, buyer and seller side of the deal, make 6% on the transaction. They don't want you to stay there for 30 years. They want you to stay there for 0 years. They want you to buy it, pay their commission, and immediately buy another one.
Yep.
And so, and the schools, the law schools are, it's much the same. They want your tuition dollars and they're going to say and do whatever it takes to get those dollars.
All right. We're going to end with 2 success stories. This first one is from Proud Dad.
When my daughter first decided she wanted to go to law school, we had absolutely no idea about how to navigate the process of finding the right school. My wife and I are public school teachers and had almost no knowledge about law school admissions or LSAT prep. We found an online tutor who cost way too much and yielded very underwhelming results. After a cold diagnostic of 153, our daughter took the LSAT in June and scored a 157. During her months of prep, I discovered the demon by finding your videos on YouTube and was immediately drawn to your no-nonsense approach to the test and the admissions process. I told my daughter that she should sign up for the Demon at the live plan to prepare for her next test. She told us that the site was much easier than working with her tutor to improve in every section of the test. In August, she scored a 162 and immediately went back to work for the September test, where she scored a 169 and submitted her applications in early October. We used the scholarship estimator. Again, that's lsatdemon.com/scholarships. And the 509 data, along with the LSAC school info and lsd.law. And the results have been 100% in line with the data. She has earned 3 full tuition scholarships. One of those is at her top choice school. She's still waiting to hear back from 4 schools, but she is completely in the driver's seat. The reason that I'm writing this email instead of her is that she has never watched your podcasts. I, however, have been watching the videos on YouTube and relaying the admission strategies for the last 6 months, and I have to thank you for all the information you've given us to help navigate this process. My daughter will attend the school of her choice for free. You've saved us about $250,000.
That's $250,000.
Exclamation points on that. Yeah, $250,000.
Yeah.
I thought that sending you an email was the least I could do. Keep up the good work. You are changing people's lives. Sincerely, proud dad.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, that, by the way, right there, who was our correspondent up at the top? Dale?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
Dale, you could play that clip for your folks. I mean, that's why we want you to exhaust your LSAT attempts, is because we think we can maybe save you $250,000. Is it worth maybe $250,000 to take it a 5th time? Oh, by the way, something that I didn't say up top when we were talking to Dale is that we have 2 recent LSAT Demon graduates who both went on to teach for us, who took the LSAT 5 times, who eventually got their score in the 170s on their 5th attempt.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking about Matt, who went to University of Maryland on a full ride scholarship after taking the LSAT 5 times. He did not score in the 170s until he took it that 5th time. Every single time his practice test indicated he could do better, or at least for sure, like the 3rd and 4th time he was taking it, his practice test scores indicated he could do better. I kept saying, yeah, dude, you got to keep going. You got to take it again. You got to exhaust your chances. He did. He ended up on a full ride.
Yeah.
At a totally different level, we have Elizabeth, who ended up going to Harvard after taking it 5 times, and she did not score in the 170s on her first 4 attempts. And then finally she scored in the 170s on her 5th attempt and ends up going to Harvard.
Yeah.
So yeah, the schools don't tell you that advice. The schools don't want you to take it again. The schools want you to just apply with what you've got.
And then pay.
And pay. Yeah. And we're on your team. We, do what proud dad and proud dad's daughter did.
Yeah.
Work hard on your LSAT. Keep taking the test officially until you get the best score you can achieve. Apply broadly, and yeah, put yourself into the driver's seat. Anything more for proud dad?
No, thanks for writing in and keep us posted. This next one is from Alex.
Okay.
It says, Dear Ben and Nathan, the Demon's commonsensical approach was instrumental to my LSAT improvement. My diagnostic was a 152. I studied for an hour a day for several months, broke through several plateaus, and eventually scored a 172 on the February 2023 LSAT. I tentatively planned on submitting my applications in September of 23 and taking the test again. I got a sales job and continued to study on my lunch breaks, but something happened. I fell in love with my job.
Oh, amazing.
I've been doing it for 7 months now and making $70K a year, and I'm getting promoted next month. Most of my colleagues make 6 figures, some make over 300,000, and most don't work more than 40 hours a week. I never fully examined why I wanted to go to law school in the first place. I love reading, writing, arguing, and admittedly, the sound of my own voice. I longed for the prestige associated with being a lawyer. I want a comfortable upper middle class life and intellectual fulfillment. I saw law school and big law as the only way to achieve those goals. But in modern society, there are a ton of other ways to be successful, to make money, and to put one's intellect to use. Who knew? It took stepping out into the real world and trying something different to figure that out. I am liberated by the realization that I don't have to be a billable hour machine to live a comfortable life. I prefer talking to people on the phone all day to reading troves of documents. I'm happy to read a few pages at a time, but I lose focus after 5 or 6 pages unless the material is riveting. The idea of reading a terms of service agreement from start to finish makes me sick! Exclamation point. The LSAT is fun, but I find law itself to be mostly boring. And now I can finally say this out loud. Anyway, potential takeaway for the listeners: don't go to law school unless you're absolutely sure it's right for you, and maybe try something else first. Best, Alex. You know, that's one thing we don't always say. We always end the show with don't pay for law school, but maybe something we need to remind people of is don't go to law school unless you're absolutely sure. Those words exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Which one of these makes you happier? Proud Dad's daughter achieved a 169 and is apparently going to go to her top choice school for free.
Yeah.
Alex achieved a 172 and then decided not to go to law school at all. Which one makes you happier?
I'm biased because I deliberately chose to not practice law. I did not love it. I think Alex's email makes me happier. It's just, I can feel the future, right? And it feels
You have kids.
bright.
What would you want for Matthew?
Yeah, a job that he likes.
Yeah, a job that he loves and is fulfilled by and doesn't see himself as a billable hour machine.
Oof.
You know, a way to do something fun and make a good living and be happy with your life. I mean, that's what we're all going for, right? Is life happiness?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when we help people end up not going at all, I love that. And you know, Dale, you might not want to share this part of the show with your folks because your folks might not want you to be happy. They might just want you to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
But having been to law school, you know, I agree with you, Alex. The LSAT is fun. It is super fun. And I cannot imagine something more boring than law. I just fucking hated it. I hated law school. I got nothing out of it. I did not read anything interesting. When I look back at all my other degrees, because I've been to a lot of school, right? I have a couple master's degrees before I ever went to law school. I look back fondly on my undergraduate, some of my classes. I look fondly on my 2 masters. Like there were books that I had to read there that were interesting. I didn't read shit in law school that I thought was good.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing there that was useful for anybody who's not going to just become one of these worker bees.
Yeah.
And so I am thrilled that Alex made the decision that Alex made. And for the sickos out there who really are going to be successful in law and proud dad, maybe that's your daughter. If your daughter is one of those sickos, because I know a lot of those people too, who is going to be genuinely happy as a lawyer, then congratulations.
We mean
that's
that
fantastic.
in the best sense.
Yes. I mean that because they are like the lawyers are crazy. Lawyers, like the good ones, are crazy and they just want to fight and they're happy to fight in written documents. And, you know, they would be loving the opportunity to read 5 or 6 pages of super boring shit so that they can find the little thing in there that's going to make them win.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that's going to make your daughter happy, then fantastic. But if your daughter ends up walking away from that full ride scholarship offer to her top choice, I would be even happier for her than if she takes the offer.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. Thanks for sending those in. Those are great to read. The next thing we're going to cover here is word of the week, and then we're done. It looks like you added a word, inaugurate.
Yeah. I was reading something this morning in bed. I'm reading a really good book. It's called Factfulness. What is the full title? 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World and Why Things Are Better Than You Think. I got this either off of a Bill and Melinda Gates list or off of a Barack Obama list, but they're both recommending this book. It's from 2018. I got it for free on Libby, reading it on my Kindle.
Nice. Okay.
And
I'll check it out.
Oh, Highly recommend. Love it so far. Dude, it started off with a quiz.
Mm.
Check this out. It's a quiz. I'm not going to give you any of the questions because I want everybody to be able to take the quiz on their own.
Yeah.
It's a quiz that has like 13 questions and there's only 3 answers per question.
Mm.
Okay. A, B, or C.
Mm-hmm.
13 questions on the quiz.
Mm-hmm.
I got 2 out of 13, which is worse than random guessing.
Yeah.
But apparently this guy has given this same quiz to audiences all over the world, and humans always score worse than random chance on this quiz.
Oof. Interesting.
So it illustrates how bad our biases are and how poor we are at understanding like what's really going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to learn about things like poverty, primary education for girls in the developing world, all sorts of stuff about infant mortality and just things that like where we really get, because of the way our news works, we really get the wrong impressions about things.
Mm-hmm.
And it causes us to systematically misunderstand the way the world is working. So it is an optimistic book. Some people won't like it because it seems to be too optimistic about the way the world is. But this guy, he's a physician who has spent his whole life treating people in the poorest places in the world. And he's like, no, there are plenty of people suffering. There's plenty of misery. But we also have made quite a bit of progress. And this book, if you're looking for something optimistic, this book will teach you about some of the progress that we've made over the past 100 years or so.
Nice. Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
So you read this word while you were reading that book.
Yeah. So the word of the week, it was just, I saw a quote. It said something along the lines of how politicians love to inaugurate new buildings, which of course made me immediately think about Dean Fagman at University of California, San Francisco College of the Law.
Is that like the cutting ceremony, or is that the initial like, let's inaugurate, let's get this going and start building a building?
Yeah. I mean, I had only really heard inaugurate used we always think of it as Americans. We always think of it as like a presidential thing, right?
Yeah. That's January 20th or something.
President.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But apparently it just means to begin or to introduce a system, a policy, a period, or you can use it as in to open up a building. The quote here is he inaugurated a new policy of trade and exploration. So inaugurate just means to begin.
Okay. Yeah. The word I came across was actually on the LSAT. It's inimical.
Inimical.
I knew it was negative. I knew it was.
Can you give it to me in context? I want to try to figure out what it means. By itself, I got nothing.
So the answer choice actually started with the word inimical. I don't remember what test we were doing, but it was inimical to the process of developing something, right? So inimical to. And I knew it was negative. Yeah, it's negative. It's the word that came to my mind was like antagonistic or something like that. That's not the exact definition, but
okay. So in the first 2 letters in that is a prefix that means not a lot, right? Like invisible means not visible. So inimical. Does that have something to do with like imitate or like a match? Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know.
Now I really want to see the definition.
Let me look it up here real quick.
I'll just right click on it.
Tending to obstruct or harm. So then the example here is actions inimical to our interests. And that's similar to the construction that the LSAT used. It said inimical to the progress of this development or something like that. Another, the synonyms are unfriendly, hostile. So when I send actually antagonistic is one of the words here. There's a similar synonym.
It's related to enemy somehow.
Okay.
says early 16th century from late Latin inimicalis, from the Latin inimicus. And then it says to see enemy, but I'm not seeing inimical here anywhere. Huh. An enemy is someone who is actively opposed or hostile to someone or something. Inimical. I mean, so it's actually kind of similar to enemy. Enemy and inimical. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the same word, right? Because you're saying that this is a negative thing. So inimical to, like, developing a taste for expensive wine is inimical to my goal of paying off my credit card debt.
Sure. That would be hostile towards that goal.
Yeah, it's an enemy. It's something hostile to whatever goal. So, okay. So eating donuts is inimical to my goal of having a beach bod. Yeah?
Yeah. You got it.
Cool.
There was one other word we came across. It was antipathy. And I said, when I saw that word, I said, okay, this means hatred. And then I backed up for a half second. And I was like, I don't know if it's that strong. So then I had the class look it up. Do you know the definition of antipathy?
Antipathy. Well, pathy, like I'm thinking of pathos, which would mean kind of like feeling connected in a way, right? Like a feeling, it's almost like empathy or something.
And so this is anti-empathy.
Anti-empathy.
Yeah. Antipathy.
Is that right? Antipathy. Huh.
So the definition is a deep-seated feeling of dislike or aversion. So hatred isn't too far off. You know, sometimes it's like we have this idea in our head of what a word means. And then ever since we've started looking up words so much more frequently, I'm like, yeah, I just want to get that clarity. Is this exactly, am I right here? Or have I just been perpetuating a misunderstanding of some word that was close enough to get the job done, but not really the definition?
Can I make one more book recommendation? I think
absolutely.
I want this to be like word of the week / book recommendation corner.
Okay.
And I want to hear what you all are reading out there in the world. I'm constantly looking for book recommendations these days. So
yeah,
find us on our website, thinkinglsat.com, or yell at us on social media at thinkinglsat anywhere and tell us what you're reading, what words you're looking up. But I also just read The Handmaid's Tale. If anybody wants fiction.
The book.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen the show?
No, but I did. Yeah, the book is great. And I just checked out the sequel. Did you know she wrote that book in like 1985 and then she just released a sequel to it like recently. So it's like 30 years later, she released a sequel to The Handmaid's Tale. And I have no idea if that is involved with the TV show or not. But The Handmaid's Tale, it's great if you like, dystopian. If you liked 1984 or Fahrenheit 451 or any like real dark dystopian types of fiction.
Does it take place in the future or does it take place in the past or present?
Yeah, it takes place in like an alternate future type of a thing.
Yeah. I like future movies generally. I love to see what people think is going to happen.
Yeah, this is like here's what happens if the religious patriarchy takes over and women become used for, trophy wives and breeding purposes and slaves, essentially. So it's quite dark, but I thought it was excellent. I tore through it. So anyway, one nonfiction recommendation, which is Factfulness, and one nonfiction recommendation of Handmaid's Tale.
Fiction. Yep.
Sorry, one fiction recommendation. Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Be LSAT famous. Please ask questions or share news with us at Thinking LSAT. If you have questions about LSAT Demon, you can email our awesome help team. That's help@lsatdemon.com. Also, check out our other podcast, LSAT Demon Daily. And please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. It takes you 30 seconds. It will help us immensely. So if you like what you're getting here for free, please do this. That would be great.
Yep.
That was episode 436 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Nice knowing ya. Don't pay for law school.